So often in our lives, our paths may change, but it's our purpose that remains the same. And I had a chance to sit down recently with a man whose cross-country career path has taken him and his family from the Corn Belt to the Northwest, the Northeast, and now the heart of America's dairyland. But what stood out to me the most in this conversation with the Zoetis Territory Manager, Gabe Smith, is his attitude and the values that have stayed consistent throughout his journey. From being a small dairy herd manager to working with one of the top genetic herds in the country during the 2000s with Darren Meyer at Day Sioux, and to now celebrating what will be his 7th year in animal health. This message today is about saying yes to new opportunities, taking care of people, taking care of cows, and taking care of your family. And the lessons learned from some great mentors within the dairy community here today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Zoetis. As the world's leading animal health company, Zoetis is dedicated to helping producers achieve healthy animals, healthy dairies, and healthy food through their world-class portfolio. For more information, visit dairywellness.com. All right, so Gabe Smith.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Uplevel Dairy Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so take a little minute here. Who are you and what do you do with Zoetis?
Yeah, so my name is Gabe Smith. I have been with Zoetis for 7 years. I am a territory business manager. I cover 4 counties in eastern Wisconsin, and I call on dairies and call on the vet clinics that support those dairies and work with them in a consulting role to ensure that they know programs that are available to them, product information, work with them on any troubleshooting that may arise.
So you've been with Zoetis for 7 years now? Oh, lucky 7. Yes. And based out of, as you said, Northeast Wisconsin right now. However, you have a very interesting path that has taken you to many places.
Mm-hmm.
So take us back a few years. In fact, our paths almost crossed. It was a miss. We missed each other, but we actually were both in Northeast Iowa in the metropolis of Kalmar at about the same time.
Right.
But that was one of many stops on your journey. Take us back to where you've been before you got to Northeast Wisconsin.
Yeah. So I graduated from Northeast Iowa Community College in Kalmar, as you said, around 2006. I left a dairy in Northern Illinois. I wasn't entirely certain that I was in the right career, on the right industry, right? So I took the summer off. I went on wheat harvest. I worked for a custom harvesting crew. When that was done, I returned to Kalmar and worked on a small dairy with herdsmen. We milked about 300 cows. And then in the winter of 2007, I interviewed with Sioux Holsteins, and I started working for Sioux Holsteins in 2008. In 2012, my wife got an opportunity to work for a feed additives company in Twin Falls, Idaho. So I thought that, she'd been kind of patient with me and what I was doing, and we'd put up with my moving around a little bit. So I thought, this would be a good opportunity for her and for us both, really. So we moved to Twin Falls, Idaho in August 2012. I thought that I'd be able to get to work on a dairy farm, but at the time there was plenty of labor. I actually lived down the road from a gentleman that worked for Eastern Idaho Railroad, and I looked up their website one day and I thought, this might be a good career path, or at least a good paying career path, right? So I applied with them, and I became a conductor. I guess I controlled train movement, and we moved commodities that fed the dairy industry in that area.
Wow. Okay. So I know there's going to be more steps in this path, but I want to stop here for just a moment. So in the first, 25 years of your life, you were in Illinois and you were involved in dairy. And then you said there was a time where you weren't sure if dairy was the industry you wanted to be in. And then you went on wheat harvest.
Yep.
What happened that brought you back to dairy?
I guess I miss the industry, right? Like getting to work with cattle on a daily basis has really always been a passion.
And as you mentioned, you worked on some smaller dairies as a herd manager.
Correct.
And then you ended up with Daisu.
Yes.
Which, okay, so anybody that follows dairy cattle genetics knows that prefix.
Mm-hmm.
And the time period that you were there, that was a pretty exciting time for Darren Meyer.
Yep.
As he was building what would become one of the foundational herds in genomics, right?
Yeah, so that was early genomics. I remember testing out several different methods of collecting the genomics. I think we punched their ears with, large punches, nothing compared to what we do now. I was just part of getting those animals on the ground and making sure that they had a good start and were healthy.
Yeah, and you say just part of that, but don't underestimate the value of that part of getting those animals on the ground alive, healthy, and able to live out their full potential. What a cool place to have been a part of, especially during that time. And what was your role? I know you mentioned you got involved in some genetic sampling as in some of those early years too, but what was your day-to-day there like?
Day-to-day was treated cows and maternity. And it was exciting times. We put a lot of embryos in, did a lot of IVF. I believe that was the early days of IVF. The procedure.
Wow.
So that was always really interesting. Every cow was the same to me. I tried not to focus on the genetic potential or genetic level that they'd already achieved because we needed them, right? Like we needed them on the ground and going.
Wow, so cool. And then from there you end up in Idaho. Trained conductor. Woo woo.
Yeah.
Did you? I gotta ask. Did you have like the hat and the overall?
No hat, no overalls.
Dang it!
No hat and overalls. No hat and overalls.
But you were dealing with feed commodities.
Yeah, so we moved a lot of feed commodities. I could still see the dairy industry, right? Like I was
still right there.
Yep, and we went by several dairies in between towns, so I got to see the cows, and I still missed them, but it was a good life too, working on the railroad. So
yeah, wow. So okay, so you were in Illinois, Iowa, Idaho, and then you came back to another I state.
Right. Yeah. So unfortunately, about 7 days after we got to Idaho, my wife's father had an accident on the farm.
Oh.
So we were able to stick around for a few days, but he ended up passing away due to his injuries. I think it was like 3 weeks after we got there. So it wasn't very long that we were in Idaho. And my sister-in-law, she was 10 at the time, so she was a lot younger. So just concerned over her mother, Sharon's mom, and then Sharon's sister, brought us back, got us closer to home. And we ended up purchasing, my father purchased the building, but we started a flower shop.
Wow. Yep. So flower shop owner, now you're an entrepreneur.
Business,
yeah. What did you guys learn about being business owners?
It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 cows or a flower shop. It is your life. That is what you do. Early days, in order to get things out the door on time, and then still run a retail business during the day, because we had orders for funerals and births and weddings and just everyday activities.
Wow. So what a path. So we've gone state to state to state. We've been in dairy, we've been in rail, and now small business owners. And you're here today because you've been on the Zoetis team for 7 years now. How the heck did you end up back in dairy with Zoetis?
Yeah. So we owned the flower shop for 3 years, and I worked on for a rail company in Northern Illinois for 4 years. We'd lost it after 3 years ownership. We also had our daughter born in 2015. So I was working nights. My wife had a day job. We had our daughter. In December of 2017, Mike Casper called me and said, who was the area manager on the East Coast for Zoetis. And I'd known Mike from my days at Calmer, as you had.
Yes.
So he called me up and said, there's an opportunity on my team. I think you should apply if you're interested. My biggest concern was I may not have the education for it, right? And he said, I just need someone that can work with people. Applied, interviewed in January of 2018, and the end of February, I had my first day and moved family out there in April. 2018. Yeah.
Wow. So Mike Castor.
Yeah.
A connection from back when you lived in Calmer.
Right.
Now, again, you've been in a corporate role now with Zoetis. So what an interesting path that you have been on, Gabe, that's taking you to literally across the country and giving you so many experiences, but brought you back to dairy. How has what you've picked up along the way helped you with the way that you do things now?
Yeah, I think just listening to them and their needs, be it veterinarian or dairy, and making sure those needs are met. I grew up in this business. I've been in this business my entire life, and I really do want the dairies that I work with, all of them, to be around. So anything I can do to be integral in that is important to me.
You have accumulated, again, so many experiences, and what a breadth of wisdom that you get with that too. And so when you look back over that path that got you to where you are now, you made a lot of moves. Which one was the hardest?
The hardest was moving back from Idaho.
Ooh, you wanted to stay there?
I think, well, at the time, I didn't want to stay there. I was frustrated with what we were going through personally. But I kind of felt we'd failed. Yeah, there was a lot of people that told us it wasn't a good idea to go, but we made it work, right? We wanted to do it. We wanted to try. So I think that was kind of admitting failure, but wouldn't trade it for the world.
How do you define failure?
Well, I think that's kind of a moving target, defining failure, right? Like just not meeting my own goals, not being able to do things that I set out for myself, I guess.
More importantly, how do you define success?
So right now, I mean, I have a 9-year-old little girl. I think I've got another 10 or 15 years to determine success there. And then professionally, I mean, like I said, there's parameters in place and metrics that I have to meet for Zoetis. But if I can get these dairymen to allow me on their facility without, maybe their interaction on that day, that's success for me. They put trust in me and what I'm doing.
So what I'm hearing within that is success equals trust.
Yeah.
And also outcome. And that's looking at your little girl, but also looking at those relationships that you have with your customers.
Yeah.
So Gabe, as you develop in your role that you serve the dairy industry in today, you also have to develop yourself as a leader. And I know you recently were a graduate of the most recent class of Young Dairy Leaders Institute, YDLI. What was that like for you?
I didn't realize that how it would affect me and make me uncomfortable. I think YDL is a great experience it's great for those folks that are wanting to be in those large groups and networking. I also understand the value of networking to my business and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it forced me to do that as well.
Yeah. So it made you a little bit uncomfortable having to step out of your day-to-day
right,
and be in large crowds of people and talking about things you don't normally talk about, right? But how has it helped you?
Yeah, so I mean the community outreach that we were asked to do. So we're asked to present to a community group and get involved in some way, shape, or form through volunteerism. So I've become a volunteer leader with my daughter's 4-H group. 4-H is something I grew up in and always wanted to be involved in. My grandfather was a leader for 35 years, I believe. So we're a small, young group, so I've gotten involved with that. And then for my project, I guess you would say, I reached out to our high school who has a robotics team. And I took them to a dairy farm that has 6 or 8 units that milk with robots, but they also have a feed pusher and an automated calf feeder as well. So I got to show a group of kids who have no agricultural background whatsoever. I mean, we're in a very small rural area, not a small rural area, but it's a very rural setting, and they have no knowledge of really where their food comes from and that sort of thing. So they have a love for robotics as it is, and they're looking at ways that they may continue this as a career path. So I took them to this dairy, and I let the dairy folks tell their story so that they can see a club that they're involved with at school, but how it's actually available to them in real life.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, it was. There was when we met at the dairy, we stood outside, and the dairyman introduced himself, told their story, and had that great opportunity. And then we went inside to the units, and it was like 3 minutes of just silence. And one of the leaders like leans forward and he says, "This isn't what we expected." So that was amazing.
Very cool. Yeah. So that pushed you, that Young Dairy Leaders Institute experience, pushed you to do something a little bit outside of your day-to-day for sure. Mm-hmm. But was it worth it?
It was totally worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime we can take the opportunity to tell our story and educate a consumer, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. And you did that in a very creative and impactful way with youth that had an interest in very specifically that area of robotics. So very cool, Gabe.
Thank you.
Yeah, way to keep saying yes to new opportunities and showing it to other people too. Again, reflecting on all these places you've been, mm-hmm. Gabe, and every time you are in a different place in life, you meet new people. You meet people that will stay with you in some little way, maybe a little voice that always chirps in the back of your ear, for years to come. Who have been those people? If you could pick out 3 people that really served as strong mentors and guides for you as you made big decisions, mm-hmm. made big changes in life, and took advantage of opportunities, even when other people, as you said, discouraged you from it. Mm-hmm. Who are your people?
Yeah. Mike Castor, who we've mentioned quite a bit, I've known him for a long time, and he's never told me I couldn't do something. He's questioned some of the ideas I've had, but he's the reason I'm here at Zoetis. Darren Meyer at D. Swolstein's, I owe him a lot. I wouldn't have the cattle understanding that I believe I do if it wasn't for him. He really taught me to look at, I think, more of a holistic approach. And then Carlton Flattow was a strategic account manager that I worked with in the East Coast, and he taught me a lot about the business side.
What's one of the most valuable lessons he taught you?
Never underestimate the value of listening. I think I probably wasted my years immediately after college until I went to Myers not listening to the people around me enough, because they did want me to succeed, not just the business that I was at.
Oh, it's so cool. It's interesting when you reflect on your 3 mentors, and I can hear from you how each of them has served this little piece that really makes up the fabric of who you are. And that really, that's what drives you, taking care of cows, taking care of people, and to keep going, to have that perseverance, to just power through those challenges, and that's what's gotten you here.
Right. Yeah.
So you said something earlier that you wish you would have developed your listening skills at a younger age, right? Yeah. So I want to ask you to think, to speak for a moment back to 20-year-old Gabe. Now, 20-year-old Gabe was on a wheat harvesting crew in Kansas. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. If you could give 20-year-old Gabe some advice now, what would you tell him?
Yeah, it would be listen to those around you. I worked with, in hindsight, to me now, what was a great team in Northern Illinois at a small dairy with about 500 cows, and there was a group between Select Sires and the veterinarian that we worked with in Lena Vet, that they were really trying, and our nutritionist that we worked with as well. They were really trying to get that dairy to succeed, and I probably could have listened more closely to their advice on how to do things and that sort of thing. I also tell myself, just keep going. I don't regret any of the decisions or the moves necessarily, but it was a little frustrating at times, right? But it's all worked out in the long run.
What some people might say is you've taken some risks. Do you think you're a person that takes risks?
Risks, maybe, yeah. Maybe not some totally calculated decisions has factored into it as well too. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm willing to, try something, because There's always that, well, what if this fails? And then I think the voice that says, well, what if it doesn't is louder, So I'm willing to try. I'm willing to try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's just part of life.
And then you move on.
Right. Exactly.
And then you move on. Yeah. Wow. So this has been fun, Gabe, to recap a little bit of the interesting path that you started on that's led you to where you're at today. Mm-hmm. And even some of these little ways that our paths haven't been too far from each other. Yeah. In fact, I probably only live about an hour or less from you now.
Well, it's a small industry we're in, so we're all intertwined some way.
Yeah. Yeah. And, for anybody that's listening to what you shared in your story, Gabe, what do you hope that they would take away?
I think that anybody can try to do anything, whether it's leave this industry and try something new to reinvent themselves, or even coming into it, and learning about it. It's interesting how many people I come across that they didn't grow up in animal agriculture, and they're involved in some way, shape, or form, and I sometimes question why you would be in this business with it being so frustrating sometimes, but I also understand all the rewards that go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so for you, as as you develop yourself and continue to grow in your role, what's helped you to grow as a leader?
Being able to see things maybe from everybody's side, trying to figure out how they feel and how it's going to make that situation work out for both parties involved. And just kind of trying to figure out a way to a common goal. As long as we all have a common goal, we can get there.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. I always like to wrap up my podcast with 5 questions.
Oh, sure.
Before we get to those, is there anything else you'd like to share?
I'm not entirely sure. I think we've covered a lot. Just keep working, I guess, is what I would tell people.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're gonna dig in a little bit more, Gabe. We've gotten to know a lot about you, but we're gonna get a little bit more inside your mind. So, last 5 questions for you. We touched on this one already when we talked about success and failure, but success for you?
Success for me is trust. Yeah, it's trust. If I can reach out to one of my customers, a dairyman, and say, a dairy person, and say, I'm in the area today. Can I swing in and walk calves, look at fresh cows? And the response is yes, I'm not going to be there, but they still want me there. That's true success to me. That they understand what I'm after is their own, prosperity.
Oh, I love that. Okay, question number 2 for you. In 3 words, how do you want to show up each day?
Just, every day is a bit of an opportunity. So I guess with just a can-do attitude, I guess, and different things come at me throughout my day. So just show up prepared for whatever's going to happen.
Do you feel like anything surprises you anymore? I mean, you've lived a lot of life.
Yeah. We still have some surprises. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. Just, people's take.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So the can-do attitude is how you want to show up. Okay. Question number 3. Who are thought leaders that you follow? So I don't know, maybe authors, maybe podcasts you listen to, things like that.
Yeah. So, authors, I guess I did just start reading more in the last year. It's kind of been a goal of mine, but I only read fiction. So I started reading some CJ Box books. It's a disconnect from reality for me. So I listen to that. I like Steve Rinella podcast, Meat Eater podcast, excuse me. That was just interesting to me. It's a different take. I'm by no means a hunter or anything like that, but it's a different take. I think those would be the 2. The 3, I know you wanted 3, but
that's okay. That's good too. So, and what words do you live by? Question 4. What words do you live by?
Just keep going. Just figure it out, right? Like like I said earlier, as long as there's a goal and a common goal between people on a team, you can get by it. You can get there. So,
well, that's a lead up.
It's not going to be easy, but you can get there.
Lead up to the last question then. What's your next up level? So when you're working towards common goals, either for yourself, with your family, with your team.
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next? I think I've been in Wisconsin for 2 years. So how I measure success, like I said, with trust is I'm still building that, right? I've got a few key customers that I can reach out to and just show up, but I've got a ways to go with that. So I'm going to continue that path. No changes in sight as far as relocating or anything along those lines. My daughter's in 3rd grade. We're going to let her graduate from Mishkat School District where she goes, and just kind of keep, improving, I guess, at home and making sure things are good there. We're raising some calves, got some meat chickens and layers, and I'd like to build that and work with some folks that own a retail business and just be like their wholesaler.
Oh,
or
fun.
one of their wholesalers. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So
I develop that.
yeah, so you have your own little farmstead and some animals. And hey, it is a great time to own some chickens right now. Yeah. I've been thinking about throwing a few in my backyard.
Well, it's not that profitable. It's the 6 months before they do anything. That's not so great.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, very good, Gabe. Well, this has been so fun to get to know you and the story of how you got to where you're at. But you're not done yet, are you?
No.
No. Is there any opportunity you would say no to?
No, I don't think so. I consider everything, I'm probably a little more calculated now with having a family, but no, at this point, I don't think so.
Well, thank you for being a yes, for sitting down with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thank you, Gabe. You just heard from Gabe Smith here on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. If you like this episode, please take a moment to rate or give us a 5-star review. And until next time, keep on growing, keep on learning, and upleveling your dairy. This episode is brought to you by Zoetis as the world's leading animal health company. Zoetis is dedicated to helping producers achieve healthy animals, healthy dairies, and healthy food through their world-class portfolio. For more information, visit dairywellness.com.